You can easily get any woman if you do this. It sounds like a bold promise, maybe even a trick, but the truth is, there's no trick at all. It's not about manipulation, smooth lines, or playing games. It's about doing what most people avoid because it requires courage, being real. Most of us grow up believing that we need to impress others to be loved. We wear masks, we perform, we act in ways we think will get us approval. But when you're in the room with someone who is simply themselves, flaws, quirks, and all, it feels different. It feels refreshing. Women, like all people, can sense authenticity. They can feel when someone is trying too hard, and they can feel when someone is at ease with who they are. If you want to be unforgettable, stop trying to be impressive. Start being honest. Think about how rare it is to meet someone who truly pays attention, not just glancing at you, but really seeing you. In a world obsessed with appearances, attention is the new currency. If you can make her feel seen, not her looks, but her mind, her soul, her stories, that's where connection happens. Ask questions not to get answers, but to understand. Listen in a way that shows you actually care about the answer. That simple shift makes you stand out in a sea of noise. And here's something most people overlook. Create safety. Not in the obvious sense of protection, but emotional safety. When a woman feels she can be vulnerable without judgment, when she feels she can laugh without holding back, when she feels she can share her fears and not be dismissed, that's when trust is built. That's when walls come down. You don't need to fix her problems, you just need to make her feel that she doesn't have to face them alone. The irony is, people who chase approval rarely get it. They chase attention, validation, likes, and followers, but inside, they're empty. Purpose, on the other hand, is magnetic. When you're driven by something bigger than impressing people, maybe it's your work, your mission, your passion, you become someone others want to be around, because purpose speaks louder than words. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows why they wake up every morning. Most people listen just enough to respond. They're waiting for their turn to talk. But deep listening, that's a skill that's dying. Imagine sitting across from someone who listens so deeply that you feel like the only person in the world in that moment. You feel heard, understood, validated. That's the kind of listening that makes people say there's something different about them. If you want to build real connection, listen more than you speak. Not because it's a tactic, but because it's respect. And finally, forget the grand gestures. Anyone can show up once with a grand romantic moment. Anyone can give flowers or write a sweet message once. But what about day 2, day 10, day 300? Consistency is what builds trust. Small actions done regularly mean more than any one-time display of affection. Show up. Keep showing up. Not perfectly, but consistently. So yes, you can easily get any woman if you do this. But this isn't a trick. It's not a game. It's showing up as the best, most honest version of yourself. It's making her feel seen, heard, and safe. It's living with purpose and listening with intent. It's doing the things most people avoid because they require effort. The greatest misconception we grow up believing is that we need to be something other than ourselves to be accepted. Somewhere along the way, someone convinced us that we had to perform to be loved, that we had to put on a show to be worthy. We learned to wear masks, we learned to edit ourselves, polish ourselves, trim down our rough edges, and present only the parts that we thought the world would like. And maybe it worked sometimes. Maybe we got the applause, maybe we got the attention, but inside we knew the truth. It wasn't really us they were clapping for, it was the character we were playing. If you want real connection, if you want to be someone that others are drawn to without even understanding why, you have to stop performing. You have to choose authenticity over performance, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels risky. Being authentic is not about being perfect, it's about being real. It's about standing in front of the world, and especially in front of someone you care about, and saying, this is me, all of me, the good, the bad, the parts still under construction, and trusting that the right people, the people who truly matter, will lean in, not walk away. We're taught to show strength, but authenticity sometimes looks like vulnerability. It looks like admitting when you're scared. It looks like saying, I don't know, instead of pretending to have all the answers. It looks like laughing at yourself instead of hiding your mistakes. When you are authentic, you give other people permission to do the same. You create a space where honesty is safe, where people don't have to second guess themselves, where connection isn't based on conditions or performances, it's based on truth. When you perform, you are constantly calculating, adjusting, managing impressions. It's exhausting. You're always thinking, what do they want me to say? Or how should I act so they'll like me? It's a never-ending chase for approval. And no matter how good you get at it, it never fills the void. Because even if they like you, you know they don't really like you. They like the mask. They like the edited version. And deep down, there's a loneliness in that. Because you know that if they ever saw the real you, you're not sure if they'd stay. Authenticity is about refusing to live like that. It's about choosing to show up day after day without the armor. It's about understanding that the right people will connect with you because of who you are, not despite who you are. It's about realizing that connection built on truth lasts, while connection built on performance eventually crumbles under the weight of pretending. You don't have to be the funniest, the smartest, the most charming person in the room to win someone's heart. You just have to be real. You just have to be someone who isn't afraid to be seen. That courage is magnetic. That honesty is rare. People are starved for something real. In a world full of filters, edits, highlights, and half-truths, authenticity shines like a beacon. It says, here I am, take it or leave it. And the ones who matter will say, finally, someone real. Authenticity is not about being reckless with your words or careless with your actions. It's not about saying, this is just who I am, deal with it, and excusing bad behavior. It's about being honest enough to show where you're strong and humble enough to show where you're still growing. It's about being aligned on the inside and the outside, not living a double life where your heart says one thing and your mouth says another. The truth is, people don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with presence, with realness, with the comfort of knowing that they can be real too. If you want to create something that lasts, stop performing, start living. Stop trying to be impressive, start being honest. That's where everything good begins. There is a difference between looking at someone and truly seeing them. Most people go through life being looked at, but rarely being seen. They get compliments on their appearance, their style, the way they smile. But hardly anyone takes the time to understand who they really are. If you want to build a connection that lasts, if you want to be unforgettable, you have to do more than look. You have to truly see her. Seeing someone means noticing the things that most people miss. It means paying attention to what lights up her face when she talks about it. It means hearing the stories she doesn't tell easily and honoring the vulnerability it took for her to share them. It means not just admiring her surface, but appreciating her depth. Everyone notices the obvious. The rare few notice the soul underneath. When you make someone feel seen, you make them feel valued. You make them feel important in a world that often treats people as if they're disposable. It's easy to compliment her looks. It takes effort to understand her dreams, her fears, the moments that shaped her. Anyone can say she's beautiful. It takes someone different to say, I see how passionate you are about what you love, or I notice how you always lift other people up, even when you're struggling yourself. Those are the words that stay. Those are the moments that build trust. Making her feel seen requires presence. It demands that you actually be there, not distracted by your phone, not half listening while planning what you'll say next, but fully in the moment with her. Presence is rare today. Most people are physically present but mentally absent. They hear but they don't listen. They look but they don't observe. If you want her to feel seen, you have to slow down. You have to care enough to notice the small things, the way her eyes change when she's excited, the way her voice softens when she talks about her family, the way she fidgets when she's nervous but tries to hide it. These are the details that reveal who she really is. You don't need grand declarations or dramatic gestures. Real connection is built in the small moments. It's built when she realizes she doesn't have to fight for your attention because she already has it. It's built when she talks about something random and a week later you bring it up, showing her you were actually paying attention. It's built when you ask, not just how was your day, but what was the best part of your day, or what's been weighing on your heart lately. It's built when you show curiosity about who she is beneath the surface. Pretty people are so used to being judged, sized up, and categorized that when someone simply wants to understand them, it feels like a breath of fresh air. When you see her, not the image she presents, not the mask she wears, but the real her, you make her feel safe. You create a space where she doesn't have to perform. She can relax. She can be herself. And that is one of the most powerful gifts you can give another human being. At the end of the day, relationships are not built on surface-level admiration. They are built on depth. They are built on the moments when two people realize they don't have to hide who they are. When you make her feel seen, you show her that she is not invisible, that she is not just another face in the crowd. You show her that she matters, not because of what she looks like, but because of who she is. Being someone takes effort, and it takes heart. But when you do it, you build something real, something rare, something that doesn't just feel good for a moment, but stays in the heart long after the moment is gone. If you want to build something real with someone, you have to understand one simple truth. Pressure pushes people away, but safety pulls them closer. In a world where everyone feels like they have to constantly perform, impress, or defend themselves, safety is the rarest feeling you can offer. It's not enough to like someone, it's not enough to want them. If they don't feel safe around you, emotionally, mentally, and physically, it won't matter how much you care. They'll protect themselves before they ever let you in. Creating safety isn't about being perfect, it's about being steady. It's about being the kind of presence that says, you can be yourself here. You don't have to hide. You don't have to pretend. It's about creating a space where mistakes don't end in shame, where vulnerability isn't met with judgment, where emotions aren't treated like burdens, but as windows into the heart. When you make someone feel safe, you give them permission to stop performing. You give them permission to be real. Most people live with an invisible armor on. They've been hurt before, they've been laughed at, rejected, criticized, left, so naturally they learn to build walls. They learn to smile when they're sad, to say, I'm fine, when they're breaking inside. What they crave, even if they never say it, is someone who sees through the mask and doesn't demand more than they're ready to give. They crave someone who is patient enough to wait and strong enough to handle the truth when it finally comes out. Pressure, on the other hand, is what so many people unknowingly create. It's the subtle expectations. It's the rushing of conversations toward intimacy before trust has been built. It's the need to define, to label, to control. It's the sense that love must be earned by performing a certain way, by being good enough, fast enough, perfect enough. Pressure doesn't bring people closer. It makes them pull back. It makes them second guess themselves. It makes them question whether they're safe being fully seen. Creating safety means listening without trying to fix everything. It means accepting emotions without trying to minimize them. It means being steady when they're unsteady, calm when they're overwhelmed. It's choosing to stay even when the easy thing would be to walk away. It's letting someone open up at their own pace, not forcing them into deep waters when they're still learning to swim. True safety isn't about solving all their problems. It's about reminding them they don't have to face those problems alone. There's nothing more attractive than someone who makes you feel safe just by being themselves. It's not about big speeches or dramatic gestures. It's in the small things. The consistency of your words matching your actions, the patience in your tone, the way you remember what matters to them even when they didn't think you were paying attention, which is the way you show them again and again that they don't have to earn your kindness, that they don't have to fight for your attention. When you create safety, you allow love to grow in its natural, healthy way. Love that is born out of pressure, is fragile, it's anxious, it's always wondering if it's good enough. Love that is born out of safety is strong, it's rooted. It's a place both people want to return to, not out of obligation, but out of joy. People don't stay because they're pressured. They stay because they're safe. They stay because they feel understood, respected, and valued for who they are, not for who they are pretending to be. If you can be the person who offers that kind of safety, you will build a connection that doesn't just survive the storms, it grows stronger through them. And there is a kind of strength that only comes from knowing who you are and why you do what you do. Too many people move through life chasing approval, desperate for validation, addicted to being liked. They shapeshift, they adjust, they shrink or expand depending on who's watching. And for a moment it works. For a moment they get the applause, they get the attention, but deep down they know it's not real. Because if you spend your life seeking approval, you can never rest. You can never stop performing. You can never stand still without wondering, am I enough for them? Approval seeking is exhausting because it's endless. No amount of praise can fill the void that comes from not accepting yourself. No amount of attention can satisfy a heart that doesn't know its own worth. Purpose gives you a center, it gives you an anchor. When life gets chaotic, you start living by someone else's standards. You start choosing paths that aren't even yours. You lose your voice because you're too busy echoing what you think people want to hear. You lose your dreams because you're too busy living someone else's expectations. Being purpose-driven changes everything. Purpose gives you a center, it gives you an anchor when life gets chaotic. It gives you a reason to say no when everyone else says yes. It gives you the clarity to walk away from anything and anyone that tries to make you smaller. Purpose is not about pleasing others. It's about honoring the calling within you. It's about living in a way that feels true, even if nobody claps for you, even if nobody understands. When you are purpose-driven, you don't chase people, you don't chase approval, you don't mold yourself to fit into rooms that were never meant for you. You walk your path with your head high because you know what matters. You know who you are trying to become. You know what you are willing to fight for, and you know what you are no longer willing to tolerate. That certainty is magnetic. That quiet confidence draws the right people to you. People who respect you, not because you demand it, but because you embody it. Purpose gives you patience. It reminds you that you're playing a long game, not living for the highs and lows of momentary applause. Approval comes and goes. One moment they love you, the next they criticize you. If you live for their approval, you die by their rejection. But when you live by your purpose, external opinions lose their power. You can listen to feedback without being destroyed by it. You can hear criticism without it shaking your core, because your worth is not up for debate. It's rooted in something bigger than popularity. Approval seeking feels urgent. It feels desperate. It says, please tell me I'm good enough. Purpose-driven living feels steady. It says, I know who I am, whether you recognize it or not. Approval-seeking leaves you chasing people who don't even know what they want. Purpose draws in those who see you clearly and appreciate you deeply, not for what you give them, but for who you are. When you live with purpose, you attract better relationships. You attract people who value depth over performance. You attract opportunities that align with your heart instead of your fears. You find yourself in places that challenge you to grow instead of shrink. You start building a life that is rich in meaning, not just rich in appearances. You don't have to convince anyone of your worth when you live with purpose. You don't have to beg for a seat at anyone's table. You build your own table. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to chase love, approval, or recognition because you realize the most valuable things are the ones that cannot be taken from you. Your integrity, your vision, your truth. That is the kind of life that lasts. That is the kind of life that inspires. That is the kind of life that no amount of applause could ever replace. Listening is one of the most powerful gifts you can offer another human being, yet it's one of the rarest. Most people don't actually listen. They wait for their turn to speak. They nod, they smile, they make eye contact, but underneath it all, they're rehearsing their next sentence. They're thinking about how to sound smart, how to impress, how to win the conversation. And the truth is, you can always feel it when someone isn't really there with you. You can feel when you're just an audience to someone else's performance, not a participant in a real connection. Deep listening is different. Deep listening is about choosing to be fully present, choosing to set aside your need to be right, to be impressive, to be heard, and instead making space for someone else to truly be seen. It's about hearing not just the words, but the meaning behind the words. It's about noticing the pauses, the hesitations, the things left unsaid. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most important things are not shouted, they're whispered. And if you're not really listening, you'll miss them. When you practice deep listening, you're not listening to respond. You're listening to understand. You're listening to connect, not to control the narrative. You're listening because you genuinely care about what's being said, not because you're trying to figure out how to bring the conversation back to yourself. And when you listen that way, everything changes. Trust grows. Defenses come down. Real connection takes root. People are starved for that kind of attention. They're starving for someone to actually care enough to pause their own agenda and simply listen. You don't have to fix every problem someone shares with you. You don't have to have the perfect advice lined up. Sometimes all someone needs is to be heard without judgment, without interruption, without being made to feel like a burden. They just need to know that their feelings are valid, that their story matters, that their voice carries weight. When you stop waiting for your turn to talk, you notice things you never noticed before. You notice the way someone's face changes when they talk about what they love. You catch the slight tremble in their voice when they're trying to be strong but are secretly struggling. You hear the pride, the fear, the hope layered beneath their words. You begin to see them, really see them, not just the version they show to the world. Deep listening also changes you. It teaches you patience. It teaches you empathy. It reminds you that conversations aren't competitions to be won, they're bridges to be built. It humbles you because you realize that you don't always have the answers, and that sometimes just holding space for someone is more powerful than any advice you could ever give. When you practice deep listening, you become someone people feel safe with. You become the person they open up to, the person they trust, the person they know won't just hear their words, but will understand their heart. That kind of connection is rare. That kind of connection is real. And once you experience it, you realize how shallow most conversations really are. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room to have the deepest impact. Often the strongest presence is the one who listens the most intently. Often the person who changes someone's life isn't the one who delivers a perfect speech, but the one who quietly sits with them and listens without judgment. So the next time you're in a conversation, catch yourself, ask yourself, am I really listening? Or am I just waiting to talk? Choose to listen. Choose to be present. Choose to care enough to hear the things that are hard to say. Because in a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, the one who listens becomes a light that others can't help but be drawn to. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that big moments are what define relationships. The surprise trips, the grand apologies, the elaborate dates. They look impressive, they feel exciting, and for a moment they might even feel like everything you ever wanted. But when the excitement fades and life returns to its normal rhythm, what truly matters is not what someone can do once in a while, but what they show up and do every single day. It's not the grand gestures that build trust. It's consistency. Consistency is quiet. It's not flashy. It doesn't demand attention, but it's powerful because it sends one simple message over and over again: you can count on me. It's the daily good morning text, the thoughtful check-in after a hard day, the small moments of kindness that say, I'm here, I'm staying. It's remembering the things that matter to someone even when it's not convenient. It's following through on your word when nobody's watching. It's doing what you said you would do, not once, not just when it's easy, but all the time. Grand gestures without consistency are like fireworks, beautiful for a moment, but gone in an instant. They light up the sky, they make everyone gasp, but they leave nothing lasting behind. Consistency, on the other hand, is like a sunrise. It shows up every day. It builds trust quietly, steadily, until one day you realize you're standing on a foundation that feels unshakable. Consistency doesn't shout, look at me. It simply says, you can relax now, I'm not going anywhere. Anyone can pull off something impressive when they're motivated, when they're trying to win someone over, when they're afraid of losing what they have.